All right, I'm going to get straight into this. It's been a while since I've recorded an episode of Compassionate Cultures, the podcast, and it's partly because I did naturally plan to have a summer break, but I did plan to let everybody know that that's what was happening. But then the riots happened, the race riots in England took place, and everything just went out the window. Everything went out the window. And so what I want to do in this episode is offer what I found during that time to help myself and to help other people who were affected by those riots and are still affected. Okay. Because I think not enough time is spent speaking to us, the recipients. I think we spend so much energy trying to educate people, which is important also, but sometimes at the cost of our own well-being. So I want to just speak to all the global majority people, the Muslim people, the white ethnic minorities, everybody who was affected and is still being impacted or are still being impacted by the race riots, the racial riots, not the thugs. Let me not get too deep into the terminology, right? But there certainly were race riots. We can't run, there's no running away, and I don't plan to run away from that, right? Yeah, so what a terrifying time. I can't, it's so unprecedented in my lifetime. I wasn't around when the skinheads were wreaking havoc on the streets. I wasn't around, when racism was so obvious. I've not lived in that time, right? So to wake up and hear that it might be unsafe for you to leave your house because of the color of your skin. Because you're seeing people being attacked because of the colour of their skin or because of the religion that you follow is absolutely terrifying. I'm a part of many networks of particularly black women, and I heard so much fear, and I totally related to that fear. One person said, I feel trapped in my skin. I feel trapped in my skin. I had never thought about that. Yeah, I talk about race all the time, but I don't feel trapped. I love my skin colour. It's great. But for the first time ever, when she said that, I thought, oh my gosh, yeah. It's not like you can just take it off. This is how I come. So what does that mean when I go to the shops? What does that mean if somebody looks at me the wrong way? Are they one of those people? How am I going to protect my family? Can you hear the passion in my voice? I'm not hiding. Look, yes, I'm passionate, and I'm not toning that down. Sometimes I tone that down because I'm a very naturally passionate person. But for this, I'm just going to come as I am, right? Very terrifying time. So I was sat at home, reading all these comments, watching the news like it was going out of fashion, which I would keep, that's one of my pieces of advice, is that you don't overindulge in the news because it's not good for you. But I just couldn't help it. It's like I was addicted to finding out what was going on. And so fears were going through my mind. My sympathetic system kicked in, the fright, or freeze, all the F's. Fright, flight, and freeze symptoms kicked in. I couldn't say anything on social media. I didn't have the words. I remember I could see people were coming to look at my LinkedIn page, and I know there was nothing initially. Then I put some stuff out about protecting your children. Let your children know what's going on before other people let them know what's going on. And then it's probably about 4 or 5 days later, I just sat down in the morning, I was quiet, I'd done my meditation, and I thought, people need ways through this. They need methods, strategies to work their way through this trauma, because that's what they were being exposed to, was racial trauma. Now, I've done a whole episode before on the 6 different types of racial stressors / trauma, so I'm not going to go through that. But I'll put a link to it in the description on the website, on Strawberry Words website for that. What I want to do is just share some of those strategies. I'll do this over 2 episodes because I don't want to take too long to do this. But for those people who are, you're coming off the back of that, or you're still feeling that impact, I want you to know that there are ways through this. How do I know? I know because, number one, I talk about racism every day, so I have to look after myself. Because that's hard. When you're getting microaggressions coming at you during a training session, or people being, and don't get me wrong, it doesn't happen like all the time, but it happens. It's just part of the course. When people are constantly challenging you and saying, well, microaggressions, for instance, aren't that big a deal. Haven't we got better things to deal with? Or I think you're being overly sensitive. Oh, I think you're using the race card. All these kinds of things, they have an impact on you. They cause wear and tear in our bodies. They age us. They cause us to have illnesses and so on. So you have to have ways through this. So I know because I talk about race often. I also know because I'm someone who's had cancer in the past. So I've mentioned this before. And also because of all of this and just life, I see a therapist. And so we together have come up with many different strategies that can be used to calm the nervous system down and to work your way through challenging times. Okay, so that's what I'm sharing. Some of the tried and tested techniques by myself and many other people that have worked to help just to soothe you as you wrap your head around the fact that unfortunately in this life, in this society, there are people who don't like you simply because of what your identity represents. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow because we're told so often that that's not the case. It's in your mind. We live in an equal society. Racism is a thing in the past. The race riots prove that that's just not true. Okay, for some people. Okay. So one of the things, so I wrote a blog, I mentioned, and it went quite viral actually, and quite a few people have sent this to their organisations. It was, I can't remember the title now. It's on the Strawberry Words websites, but it's about the race riots and looking beyond that to deal with trauma. All right. It got taken up by Make a Difference magazine, which is a global magazine. And thank you very much for publishing that. And so this is what I'm sharing. Right. Let's get to it. What I first say is resist the urge to catastrophize, especially, when you're watching the news cycle all the time, you're constantly seeing what's happening and people are talking about it. You can begin to think that, oh my gosh, this is everywhere. Like everybody, all white people hate non-white people or Muslim people and so on. Is that true? Is that true? Byron Katie, who's a modern day psychologist, for want of a better term, she's got these 4 questions to help you through any difficulty, and I live by them. So the first question she asks is it true? So when you're having a difficult moment, ask that question. Is it true that this violence is everywhere? If I come out my house, I'm going to get beat up, for instance. Is it true? Well, actually, no, I did manage to go to Iceland and it was okay. I survived. So it's not true. And then she asked the question again, can you know for sure? Because you might have answered, yes, it's true. But she asked you again, can you know for sure it's true? So even if you said, well, I think so. Yeah, actually, I don't feel safe. It might be true. Can you know for sure it's true? Well, actually, I can't say I've tested it. So then she asked the question, what does it make you feel when you believe that the race riots are happening everywhere? So you question that belief. Well, it makes me feel fearful, sad, terrified, despondent, angry, annoyed, depressed, anxious, all these feelings. You get all that out, all right? And then she asked the question, who would you be without that belief? So if you didn't believe the race riots were happening everywhere in England, who would you be or how would you feel? Well, I guess like my normal self, really. Because if I didn't think that was the case, I'd just be normal. I'd go out. I'd be my happy-go-lucky self. I'd obviously not feel feel fearful. I'd be happy. I'd be jubilant. I'd be normal. I wouldn't be looking at people as though I'm paranoid. So I'd be calm. I'd be at peace. I'd think that things are normal. And then what she then asked you to do is to turn the belief around. So, so the belief is, racism. So even racism is happening everywhere. Let's just go with that. Racism is happening everywhere. If that's a belief, how could you flip that on its head? Well, actually, racism is very minimal. It's only in small pockets, and which is actually true. As ethnic minorities, we are 14% of the population. If it was everywhere, there'd be many more problems than there are. As in the blatant racism I'm talking about, right? There'll be many more problems than there are. We're not dismissing systemic racism at all, but in terms of the overt stuff, getting beat up in your car, and again, I don't want to be too graphic, but you get it, it's not everywhere. And so when you adopt that belief that racism, that blatant overt racism is in small pockets, you can breathe more easily. You can move through life as if, it's not as bad as the news is making it out to be, or friends are making it out to be. Because actually, when I think about it, if I didn't watch the news at all, if I didn't hear anything about this, my life wouldn't have changed at all. Even if people were looking at me differently, because I'm still aware that systemic racism exists. I learned to ignore people who might, have a bit of a problem, have a chip on their shoulder because I'm black. I might not even, just be normal. So you've really got to be careful of catastrophizing. And I want to recommend the book because I've learned loads from this book. It's a book called Learned Optimism: How to Change Your Mind and Your Life by Martin E.P. Seligman. Okay, Learned Optimism: How to Change Your Mind and Your Life by Martin E.P. Seligman, PhD, I should add. It's a academically researched book, and it's amazing. In it, he shares the ABC method in overcoming pessimism, because I realized going through this book, because he does many tests, you can take tests. I know you're really enjoying the episode, but I want to quickly tell you about our DEI document review service. This is where we will analyze up to 7 documents of up to 10,000 words within a day, based on your organization. So that could be your EDI policy, it could be your website, it could be some of your comms, it could be job descriptions and so on. We will check for inclusivity, okay? Is it reaching a wide range of people? Are there terms that are non-inclusive? Is it up to date with its language? Are there any gaps for litigation? Is your organization at risk? We'll do all of that for your organization in a day. Write a report, do a SWOT analysis, and we'll make recommendations. The cost of this is £450 plus VAT currently. So if you want to know more, visit our website at strawberrywords.co.uk. Now back to the episode. And that I could be a bit pessimistic at times. I know, I thought, me pessimistic, but that's what it came out to be, right? So what he's saying is, the ABC method, A stands for adversity, B stands for belief, and C stands for consequences. So he's saying, well, okay, when there's a difficulty, when you're feeling pessimistic about something, go through the ABC model, right? So firstly, step 1, become aware of your BC regarding your A, okay? So my BC, or my AB, so my adversity is seeing the riots on TV. My belief, which is the B, is, my family and I are in danger, or, I can't leave the house, or all white people are dangerous, okay? So I'm becoming aware of those. And then what I want to do is to then focus on the C, which is the consequences, how you feel and the action you took, okay? So the action you took, I feel scared, I feel anxious, I feel overwhelmed, therefore I didn't go out the house. Then he says, alter your belief and your reaction will change. So it's very similar to what Byron Katie says. It's about changing that belief that you have in your head, because if you believe that there's pure danger out there, you are going to have a very negative experience, and that's going to affect your physical health as well as your emotional and mental health. Okay, so what could you choose to believe instead? Okay, my family and I are safe, because actually for me in that moment we were safe. Nothing has happened to us. Most people are good. Okay, most white people are good in this instance. All right. Give you another one. I didn't plan to go on for so long. Again, I said I'll make this 2 episodes. So I'm going to end the episode here, because I don't ever want these to be too long. I want you to be able to enjoy bite-sized episodes. So I will continue the rest of this talk in the next episode.